Rodney McAlpin here. I want to thank everyone for visiting my channel and taking a look at the video on the 1924-28 Excelsior Henderson and on the 1978 Harley SX 250. This is a continuation of my series. This is a 75 Harley SX 250 that I rescued. I bought it as a purchase of two motorcycles, and this one was in pieces. So I hope you appreciate this video. Also, at the end of the video, make sure you click like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Leave comments at the end. Let me know what you think. Let's start with the original Harley-Davidson ad for the 75 SX 250. This was a pamphlet and a brochure that was handed out and mailed to the different people who were interested in the bike. The picture you're looking at is what I thought I was buying. It's a completely assembled motorcycle. It needed a lot of work, and it was in Illinois. It would be a true statement to say that at this point I was buying a motorcycle that was completely sight unseen, except for the picture that you see that I was shown. Well, I drove from Jackson, Mississippi up to Memphis to the Bass Pro where I met the person I bought the motorcycle from. And when we opened the door and began to unload the stuff so I could put it on my trailer to bring it home, I got a big surprise. What I saw was a frame, a whole bunch of boxes full of parts. I saw some wheels, I saw some fenders, and some tins. I was asked if I still wanted a motorcycle. I told the man yes, I'd put one together before, and I think I could still salvage this one. I asked him if he thought all the parts were there, and he said yes. The pictures you're looking at now were taken back at my shop as we unloaded the trailer. We scattered the stuff out and took pictures to document the stuff we had so that I could cross-reference and see what I needed to order. As I began to survey the situation, I found that the engine, because it had been dismantled, was easy to look at. I found a piston that had been ordered as a replacement and seemed to be the correct size, but it had a broken ring. Thank goodness I had a spare ring, but I only had one, and I was able to put that in there. The cables were in fairly decent shape. The exhaust pipe, on the other hand, was stopped up, so it had to be opened up, cleaned out, welded back together. Well, the instruments, they were there, but I had to take them apart and clean them. There were some issues with them. One had a broken glass. The red crate you see had a menagerie of parts in it. A lot of them were usable, but some weren't. The blinkers you see were broken. I wound up using a set of Honda blinkers and opening the holes up to fit the mounts that were on the 75 model Harley. On the controls, both clutch lever and brake lever were broken. I had all the parts, so I was able to TIG weld those back together. Things like the Kickstarter I was unable to use because it was stripped. I actually had a replacement shaft I was able to use, and I ordered an aftermarket Kickstarter, which worked fine except for the fact I had to put a slight bend in it to match the original Harley. While the engine was out of the frame, I was able to go ahead and polish the right and left side covers, check out all the ignition in the left side cover, and check out the clutches. I also put a coat of cast aluminum paint on the engine cases in the middle. I did not have to split the cases on this engine. The Del Orto carburetor you see in this photograph was not used. I've had so much trouble with those in the past, I went ahead and put a 34mm Mikuni on it that I never have a problem with. The Mikuni carburetor was a used carburetor I got from a friend that was in great shape, but I did have to order all the jets for it because I had to rejet the thing. It was built for some motocross bike and it just wasn't right for this 250. The frame was in good shape. It only needed cleaning and painting. It was beat up or scratched and even had the original side stand, which is usually missing on these bikes. The front forks were in really good shape. All I had to do was clean them up and put new oil in them. The reflectors on the side of the lower legs were missing. That took a little bit of doing. They still have those at the Harley dealers, but they're not listed as P part numbers for the Aramakis. They're a regular Harley part number, and I had to make them dig for them. As you can see here, the wiring harness was in real good shape. It hadn't been cut up or mangled. It even had the original ignition switch with a key, which is rare. Well, now in the next few shots, we're going to take a look at what made the Harleys different from the other bikes of the time. Well, starting in 1974, when they reintroduced the line and made all the changes, they put the oil tank for the oil injection in the frame in that big square section. None of the other bikes at the time were doing this. They were all using injection tanks. On the 75 and 76 models, the battery was on the side under the cover, and the air filter was in a can underneath the seat. The seat flipped up. They did away with these two options in the 77 and 78 models. 74 through 76, there was a hoop behind the seat on the frame that was a hinge mount for the seat. The seat would flip up and flip back to allow access to the air cleaner and to the battery components and to the ignition. The 77 and 78 did away with that. The seat was attached with bolts to the frame and did not move. As we look at the frame, you can see the heavy dutiness of the frame. That's to attest to the fact that the Italians built things to last. Now, I'm not going to say they did everything correct, but they were out in the forefront of a lot of what was going on at the time. You don't see very many of the Jap bikes that can endure the stuff that these old bikes that Harley built have endured. Now, here on the 75 model, I did the same as I did on the 78. I replaced the rusted out steel wheels with aluminum rims that I cannibalized off of some Japanese bike that had the right number of spokes. Now, on the seat, I was able to rescue the foam and just ordered a new seat cover off of the internet for $35. That was a far cry and a much better deal than I got on the 78 seat cover, which was special. On the 75 model, the spokes were able to be reused, including all the spoke nipples. This bike had been kept somewhere a little bit out of the weather. Well, once I had most of the mechanical squared away, I turned to the paint and the bodywork. Earlier you saw a black gas tank on the bike. That was the spare tank I bought at a swap meet. I bead blasted that tank, removed the dents, and repainted it. In this picture you'll see the original tank in the background and the newly painted tank that I repaired. I was able to order a decal kit off the internet that exactly matched the original decals. The paint, however, was a kind of a pain to match. Because the paint was so faded, I couldn't match it using the machine that the paint shop uses. It wouldn't work on either of the fenders or the gas tank. We finally got a partial hit, and at that point we were able to match up a color as a Brandywine color, and then we had to critique it. It took about 4 hours to match the paint. Before I started working with the paint itself, the side cover for the right side was completely missing. I had to make one from scratch. To make the side cover, I used the side cover from my 78, made a plaster mold of it, and then modified the mold so that it would have the right mounting places for the 75. That right side cover took almost a month to complete. That includes making the mold, casting the part, making the corrections to it, and priming it. Before applying any of the paint, I also bead blasted the front and rear fenders down to bare metal and primed those. Just for the record, there were 4 coats of primer, 2 coats of color, Brandywine, and 6 coats of clear. In the next 2 shots, you'll see the complete paint job on the bike. I think it turned out well. It looks so much like the factory paint job, you probably wouldn't know the difference if not for this video. Another point of interest is on the muffler there is a wire leg guard that is no longer available. I couldn't find a used one of any shape, form, or fashion. I wound up finding one on a bike in another bike shop and making a marking of it so I could duplicate it. The original muffler guard was made out of steel and chrome plated. This one is made from stainless steel with stainless steel brackets. In this shot, you'll see the bike in one of the assembly stages with the black gas tank on it that I bought at the swap meet. Just for the record, another thing that had to be made for the bike were the reflector mounts on the back fender right behind the seat that were all busted up. I had to make new ones from scratch. Again, just for the record, no one thing on this motorcycle had the ability to be installed and left on the bike. Everything had to be installed multiple times to ensure that they fit properly and that things lined up like they were supposed to. Well, it took a little over a year to make this rescue or restoration, whichever term you prefer to use. I know I'm pretty well pleased with it. I hope you are, and I hope that you'll be seeing it at some bike show in the near future. Well, we've come to the end of this video. This is the other side of the bike. I still think it looks great. If you like it also, please don't forget to click on the thumbs up and on the subscribe button. Until I see you at the nearest bike show, have a good day and Godspeed.